Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general mid-month reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the last 2 weeks of February. I hope you're all well. I'm using the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot for you today. Do I have anything to tell you? I don't think I do. So if you haven't seen these videos before, I do them slightly differently to the way that I do the main monthly reading, in so much as we are looking for the lesson. I think there's a wisdom, or indeed a lesson, contained within every experience and interaction that we have, if we are open to seeing it, and all too often we are not, because we get bogged down with the day-to-day minutiae of our existences. You know, and so it's an exercise in perspective. And to that end, what I'm going to do is pull 3 cards to see where you are right now. Right? It's an energetic snapshot. And from there, we will look at why it is you are in this energy in the first place. Now, sometimes it will be trying to show you something about yourself. Other times it'll be trying to clear the way for, you know, something new to come in, but it's requiring a release of something else beforehand, you know. There's no reason why it cannot be all of those things at once. We won't know until the cards hit the table. But then we'll close out with 3 cards of advice. And yeah, I think hindsight's 2020, and sometimes we can see the point of, you know, the challenging situations that we've been in a year, 2 years, 5 years down the way. But we don't really see them when we're in the middle of it. And, you know, it saves a lot of stress if you can kind of be a bit more detached and a bit more reflective about what's going on with you. So that's the idea. Hope it makes sense. Let's start off with 3 cards for Virgo. Where is Virgo right now, please? We have 1, 2. We have the 4 of Cups. There it is. We have the 10 of Wands. And 1 more card for Virgo, please. Fuck. And we've got the King of Swords. Right. So, interestingly enough, let's shut the window. Right. Ooh. We've got the Moon card at the bottom of the deck. That is the card of Cancer. And it talks to me about the subconscious. It talks about the things that are hidden, right? So sometimes there's a kind of vaguely illusory nature about this, but it is, I think, the way that your mind works beneath the surface, right? Where you can't see quite the operation that's going on there. And often that's where patterns, well, almost always actually, that's where patterns are contained. So when we get stuck in cycles that are really, really difficult, it's the subconscious driving that rather than the conscious mind. Now, it seems to me like you are starting to identify something, Virgo, that you have not seen up until this point. I say that obviously because we've got the Moon card here at the bottom of the deck, and further still, actually, we've got the 5 of Pentacles underneath that. So this card talks about poverty and lack of any description, though, because I see the Pentacles as energetic currency. That Pentacle then becomes to me anything that you are capable of investing. So your time and your care and your effort and your love, and yes, indeed, your money too, right? This is a deficit of one of those things, right? It's something not really playing out the way that you hoped that it would. It's feeling a sense of loss somewhere, or it is a fear of those things coming to pass. Now, this is a subconscious fear of poverty, right? And it seems to me to be speaking about a pattern where in some way or another there has been a poverty mindset at play, right? Whether it's to do with money, or whether it's to do with, you know, being time poor, or being, you know, starved of affection, starved of emotional input, you know, and see those being things that are indicated as well. And I say that because that very first card is the 4 of Cups. And this is a card of rejection. Sometimes a card of rejecting too. It's a card of being taken for granted, right? It's a card of well, in a standard Rider-Waite, you've got a young man who's kind of slumped underneath a tree, and he's looking kind of sulky. And there's this like three cups on the ground there in front of him, and he's not looking at those, paying no attention to those. And there's even a sky hand proffering another cup, going, "Oh, here is a gift of something here," and he's just like, no. The point is, it's that feeling of rejection that plays out subconsciously with us over and over again. So in some ways, for example, you might decide that everybody hates you on site, right? You prepare yourself for being rejected, because you have been rejected at points in the past where you really were open to loving this person. You know, see often with parental relationships, you know, where there's been some sort of lack of affection and a ton of money, or maybe no money whatsoever and lots of parental stress. You know, it kind of builds that poverty mindset where I don't necessarily deserve these things, or I prepare myself for not having these things. It's kind of like a stepping back and isolation thing, you know. And it's here with the Ten of Wands. Now, this is a card of burden. It's a card of things being too fucking hard. The thing is, Virgo, I think that this is, the way that this is talking to me here is that you have identified that this is something that you have been carrying around with you. You know, where it started will be different for all of you, but we almost certainly see its roots in childhood somewhere. But it seems to me like you've literally just noticed that some aspect of your mindset is coming from a place of poverty and lack or fear thereof. Because we've got this King of Swords here, right? This is Aquarius energy. Excuse me. And the sword suit will deal with the mind and the intellect and reason. In some ways it deals with consciousness, because, you know, in order for you to be logical or intellectual about something, right, you have to be able to consciously acknowledge it. And as we've seen, a lot of this is going on subconsciously. And I just love the way that he's kind of really jauntily kind of pointing at these two here. It's like, oh shit, look at that. I didn't even realize that was a thing, and here it is. It's the King of Swords is a master communicator. We actually often see him depicted in the professions, so lawyers, judges, doctors, surgeons, you know, sort of accountants as well, right? The established professions. But there's a dexterity of mental thought here. Just the way he's pointing at it, it's like, look at that. You've been carrying this around for ages and you didn't even know. You know, it's hard. It's been really, really hard. And it doesn't have to be anymore, because I can choose not to. Speaking about the Four of Cups, like it happens to be the wrong way around in the deck there. I'll just show you, see what I mean. There. So tell me about this Four of Cups and this Ten of Wands, please. Yeah, we've got the Eight of Wands here. It's this sudden realization that you've been thinking, that your thinking has been influenced, rather, not thinking about things the wrong way, but your thinking has been influenced by an aspect of your mindset that has not been quite correct. Tell me about this King of Swords. It's certainly been, in some ways, influenced by earlier experiences. Certainly, you know, the subconscious has been kind of doing what the subconscious does furiously under the surface, marauding around. But this King of Swords is clarified by the King of Cups and the Eight of Cups, the other way around, Eight of Cups and the King of Cups. And this is really, really profound, Virgo, because observation is processing, as my Chaos Magician friend says, right? If you can see it, then you can deal with it. And up until this point, it feels to me like you have not seen it. But now you have, you're like, hey, look at that. You know, the King of Cups is often about an emotional growth of some ways or another. But it also talks about an ease of dealing with your emotions that may not have been present before. There may have been a relationship issue that has catalyzed this, because we've got the Two of Cups at the bottom of the deck, but not necessarily, because for me this card talks about intimacy more than just the love of your life walking in, right? I tend to veer away from those kind of readings because I'm not interested. Is the God's honest truth. This is about the way that you relate to people and that you allow people to relate to you, to the way that you experience intimacy and how it affects your understanding of the world, but even your behavior on a day-to-day basis. You know, this Two of Cups could indicate business partners and things like that. You know, it does not have to be romantic relationships. It could be relationships with your friends, with your family, business colleagues, you know, whatever it is. But it feels like you've had a massive light bulb moment, Virgo, and this is good. because it's clearing space. And when we clear space unexpectedly, because I feel like this is sort of dropped on you as a bit of an epiphany. I don't think that you've gone necessarily deeply looking for the reason why you feel this way about this thing. It seems to have sort of dropped onto your lap. Now the lights come on, you can see everything in your room, and you're like, wow, I just realised that's there, that's brilliant. Now I don't have to keep bumping into it in the dark. I can kind of navigate around it. Now I know where it is until such time as I'm ready to pick it up and lump it out of the house, you know. Why is Virgo in this energy at the moment? We have the Fool. We have the Knight of Cups. And we have the Ten of Cups. This is glorious. That was the Ace of Swords that dropped to the side. I don't usually take them when they drop out to the right, but on this occasion I do think it's relevant. It is talking about that epiphany moment, right? But the reason why you are here is the Fool, right? It's almost like you don't really need anything. You don't even need the other cards, but you know, it's time for you to start a new cycle. You are shedding skin, Virgo, and you got very good at this. You got very good at identifying the root of things and then letting things go. You've been doing so much work on that in the last 2 years. But this is really, truly a step up to the next level. It's almost like this was one thing that was kind of holding you back from really, I want to say throwing yourself into the void, because that sounds a little bit dramatic and possibly dangerous, but the Fool doesn't really know where his next step is going to be. Like he's about to go off a cliff there, you know, and the little dog's trying to warn him. It's like, hey, you're about to go off a cliff. But that isn't a bad thing. It's about taking that leap of faith into something new. And you don't need to know where you're going to land in order to do that. Because this is the start of a new cycle here, I feel very strongly that whatever revelation, whatever epiphany it is that you've had, it's been the thing that stopped you from really embracing this new. Because do you remember what I said about needing to make space? Well, once the space is there, in wanders the Fool. He ambles in, ready to go, you know, on the next cycle, whatever that is, because the cycle moves from, you know, from the Fool right the way down to the World card, whereupon you start again at the Fool, but building on the wisdom and experience that you've accrued during the previous cycle and cycles, you know. But for you, I think that this is really important, because with this Page of Cups, Knight of Cups, beg your pardon, here, who interestingly has come out for every single reading that I have done today, this Knight of Cups, it's about coming from a really heart-centered place, a very open place. It is about offering your cup to someone and being able to receive a cup in return, you know. It's opening everything right up. But with this Ten of Cups too, the Ten of Cups is about emotional fulfillment, right? But it's collective. It's more than just you. So we've seen the Two of Cups there. We've seen that on a, you know, one-to-one basis, on that level of intimacy, but we see it kind of rippling out into a broader area too. So it's not just your one-on-one very significant relationships, it's opening you up to the possibility of others, like a broader collective of people that will come and bring value to your life. But you need to be able to receive that. And there seems to have been that this Four of Cups is centered around this expectation of rejection that you have now fucking noticed and nailed and gone, I'm not going to keep stubbing my toe on you in the dark anymore. Now I see what you are. I'm ready to receive something much, much more beautiful. You know, you're exchanging the Four of Cups and the Ten of Wands, it would seem, for the Knight of Cups and the Ten of Cups, which is lovely. I like that very much. So let's get you some cards of advice, although frankly you don't seem like you need it. Some cards of advice for Virgo, please. Thank you. We have the King of Cups. We have the Eight of Cups. And we have the Ace of Swords again there. I mean, it's really just, wow, actually. We've got the Death card at the bottom of the deck. This changes everything, Virgo. Everything. It may feel in some ways like this has been a relatively minor realization, but the consequences of this are rippling forwards and adjusting your timeline. Right? The timeline that is set in front of you, it's adjusting it all together. And there are new things that are opening up because of this realization that you've had. You know, the advice is really just to keep going on the road that you've been going. You've got the King of Cups, the Eight of Cups, and this Ace of Swords here. It's like continue to be at that place where you have this easier relationship with your emotions, right? And don't be afraid to walk away from whatever emotion that you're feeling that doesn't suit you at this point. You know, understand that emotions are just literally pointing you at something at all times, and you are not your emotions, right? So if you feel anger about something, anger's brilliant because it shows you that you're feeling frustrated or sad, or, you know, something is going on there, and that requires a bit of digging. Like, why is that emotion there? If you're feeling sad, well, I mean, is the situation that is surrounding you one where it is appropriate to be sad? If it is, give yourself a break. It's okay to be sad. You know, your feelings are valid, but make sure that they're coming from the right place. You know, context is important and all that. Honestly, I don't have any worries about you at all, Virgo. I think you've really, you feel like you're getting very strong. I mean, you are already really strong. You're a fucking warrior, but stronger than you thought. You know, you're so emotionally resilient in a way that you thought you weren't for such a long time. And it just keeps building and building and building, you know? It's been a really valuable thing that's happened for you here. And that's good, because if nothing else, the Fool is showing you that you can trust yourself. You can trust yourself to go on these little journeys and find these things out about yourself, and you can trust that it is going to make something better for you in the future, at a point coming up in front of you, you know? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. So I'll try and keep these a little bit shorter. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.